open the questions to panel. May I have the first question, please?
I have a question. Actually, my question is for Dan.
Oh, yes.
My question is for Dan. You talked about trust, explore, consciousness, and all those things.
Right.
And then you mentioned about deconstruct.
Right.
But you were not able to explore too much on that. So I just want to understand what you meant by deconstruct and what it means for an entrepreneurial business.
Well, deconstruct, actually, each letter stood for one of the points I was making. Desire, D. E, explore. C, consciousness. O, overcoming fear. And non-attachment to results of things. Because most people, they start doing well, but they go astray by trying to live the high life and losing their goal, what they really started hoping for. So each of those letters, think about it, it's in that presentation, which is available to you, to everybody.
We'll be putting it on the website.
Okay. Each letter means something. So if you remember that word, deconstruct, you'll think, yes. And consciousness can be raised many ways, reading, listening to other people like this, talking to experts, meditating. Meditation, as Steve Jobs showed it, he said, my life is simply a never-ending meditation for excellence. So, each of those letters.
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
Next question. No more questions? Well, I have a question to the panel. When it comes to lending, you laid down norms for finance, ratios, personal loans, How do you judge the ability of a person to forecast in his area of expertise projection? If it's not been done before, what view do you take?
Well, our experience is in forecasting, we don't hold anybody's feet to the fire. We don't. We say, look guys, be honest. It's not just forecasting based on so many things. Your product strategy, your marketing strategy, your sales strategy, your customer service strategy. So based on all that, what is your best estimate? However, each quarter we visit that forecast, revisit it, saying, look, given the ground realities, have things changed? If they have, let's change the forecast. In our company, we never use the term budget, by the way. I don't think the bankers would like to hear that. We never use the term budget. Because budget means a straitjacket. We always call it forecast. And so, you don't need a lot of science to forecast. You got your experts, your senior people, they're very smart. They should be able to tell you how much they can push the coming year, coming quarters.
May I invite Randy to make a few remarks since you've been here present for the part of the session now?
Thank you very much. I guess my friend Mukesh Gupta, who's the chairman of the Thai organization, invited me and said, why don't you come and say a few words, Randy? You've seen a few business plans. Just to give you a little background, I work at the Media Lab, among other places, at MIT, and I'm a judge on the MIT Business Plan Competition. I've done that for 4 years, so I've seen several hundred business plans a year. The first thing I want to say is you can start lots of different kinds of businesses. I think you've heard today from two very good businesses, and you've heard about some of the percentages associated with each type of business. You know, you can go out and get a franchise and run it well. You can run a Tim Hortons franchise and make, you know, a good living. That's a business. You have to run a business. Or you can take the opposite end of the spectrum, which is more or less what we do, because our business plans that we do at MIT are looking for what's called black swans. Has anybody ever heard of black swans?
Yeah.
It's a great book.
There's a book, that's another book to add to your
It should have
list
been on
called
my list.
The Black Swan. Basically that says that, you know, in business there's randomness, okay? And a lot of people here alluded to Steve Jobs today for good reason. He will go down in history as perhaps one of the greatest, no doubt, CEOs. I think my colleagues at the table would agree. He believes, to a great extent, I think, in randomness, but he also combines another aspect, which he always talks about, and he says, you need to be insanely great. What does insanely great mean? It means you have to really, really, not just talk about understanding your customer, really trying to really get into your mindset, get into the mindset of the customer. I don't know, how many technology people or engineers are in the room, like have a tech background? Okay, quite a few. I'll tell you one of the most common mistakes that we see in the business plans that I evaluate. Too much technology. Too much technology. Too much emphasis on thinking that you have the latest, greatest widget. You know, we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a commoditized world where anybody can make a cell phone, for instance. Okay, so you have to focus on being insanely great. And don't put all your marbles on, you know, one type of technology, for instance. You have to be able to morph with the times. I like your binder approach because, you know, if we look at, and we can't choose. We don't know which we're going to be great companies. If you look at the ones we awarded first, second, third, they're not necessarily the ones that did the big, you know, IPOs and are valued at $5 billion, like Akamai or, you know, or E-Ink, which is in all the, you know, tablets now. They didn't win the big prizes, so. You know, the people who look at your stuff don't necessarily know. Believe in yourself, right? You're the one who knows if you're building a great business plan or not. And as was said, build the plan for yourself, not for the bank. You're the one who has to live with it. And I guess the other term that gets associated with all that is believe in your emotional quotient. Believe in what, you know, you think is a great thing. So I know you've heard a lot about all of these things. You know, the only other thing I would say is as you grow, you need to be able to also build great teams, because people will look at your ability to build great teams knowing that the business will by necessity morph as it goes along. So invest in the skills that you need to be able to identify great talent, to nurture them, to be able to delegate, as was said. So, you know, these are some of the aspects that, you know, I would emphasize. Maybe what not to put in a business plan. There's so many things that, so many books and so many ideas and people that will tell you what to put in a business plan. But, you know, think about these. I really like your approach with your, you know, the subtle things that you talk about. I think these are the important things that, you know, make you want to get up in the morning and execute and change and make the changes. So those are a few of the things that I would emphasize.
My team looking at so many business plans, I think that.
Small question. Any recommendation for entrepreneurs who are working a full-day job and then getting into entrepreneurship?
At night.
Yes. Well, at least early days.
I'll take a stab at answering that. So I used to be a lawyer on Bay Street and had crazy billable hours to satisfy my firm's big rent at First Canadian Place. But I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and it would be very crazy because entrepreneurs are a little bit crazy, I agree. You have to be a risk taker, but you have to be strategic about it. So while you're doing your business, right, while you're doing your job rather, You have to start investing in your business. Because if you think that by becoming an entrepreneur, you're going to now control your hours, let me tell you right now, you're going to work even longer hours as an entrepreneur. But the difference is you're going to enjoy those long hours. It's not going to feel like work to you. So what I would suggest is, first of all, if you decide to go into an entrepreneurial path, pick something that you absolutely love, that you're passionate about, so that when you come home after work, or if you're doing it while you're at work, during your lunch break or whatever, or on weekends, it doesn't feel like a second job. You're already doing something you love. It's something you would do for free, but you're only going to do it as a business because it makes economic sense. You start building your network. You start testing your market. You lay the groundwork, right? And while you're doing all that, you save. You save enough to get by for 6 months or thereabouts without an income. Because that's the two things that are critical. A, test your market, and actually Dan had a slide up there, and I'm going to talk about that slide, because that slide is what's going to help you decide whether or not this part-time endeavor of yours has the viability and the potential of making a business. And it's what he calls the hedgehog concept on his slide, and it's from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And it's basically 3 concentric circles, and those are the 3 values that you look for while you're doing a full-time job in your part-time endeavor. A, is this something I am super passionate about? B, do I really believe that I can do this better than anybody else? And 3, is there an economic engine to it? Can I actually make money with this? Where those 3 circles collide, that concentric part, that common ground, is your seed for the business. And if you save, if you nurture the contacts, if you start building it, then when you take that leap of faith, you're already hitting the ground running, as opposed to saying, okay, now where do I start, right? So you sort of prepare it.
Yeah, the question is for Ronnie. This is more of a mundane question, but I'm intrigued. How do you value a business when they say valuation? Do you look at the projection, income projections over the next 4 or 5 years, and there's some magic formula that you use to come up that this business or this should be the valuation of the business presently?
When it comes to valuation, there are multiple ways of valuating a business. Some valuations are very technical, and there are business valuators that go to school and get certifications for that. And it also depends very much on the industry in which you are, the stage of development of your company, the stage of profitability or the revenue of your company. So there are multiple factors that will impact the value of your business. If you're looking at a straight, direct mathematical calculation, the way I have assessed the value of my business myself has been looking at a similar business that is publicly traded and looking at the multiples that the market is prepared to pay over their revenue and over their EBITDA, which is really the profit before taxes, and divided by 2. So if, as an example, a similar business like mine would be valued at 8 times revenue or 8 times EBITDA, then my business would be probably 4 times. That's the rule of thumb that I have used for my businesses when I ran them, when I sold them, and I was pretty much plus or minus 10%. I was only lucky, as I mentioned to some of you I talked to them during the break, that I got something like 100 times the value. And it was only because now the valuation of your business outside the mathematical aspect can come from 2 things. One is the kind of market reach that you have already established, the kind of value that a potential buyer sees it. So as an example, The company that I'm going to talk to you about was a company that I invented, web conferencing, which today you're using as a technology. I created that company back in, the idea came in 1995, when nobody knew about the word internet, World Wide Web, nothing. It was only because most of academics and being a PhD, I used the internal network of universities, and my remote university was MIT. So I graduated from MIT, from New York. And therefore I was aware of this network. So I thought about what can we do, and as Dan said, you learn from failures, you don't get discouraged. So my previous venture was a failure. I had tried to develop a software which today I would refer to it as PowerPoint on steroid. I was trying to compete with Microsoft Office. And I said, I developed the best mousetrap, it's faster, it's nicer, it's look good, it's cheaper, everybody's gonna buy it. But I sold 250,000 copies, and that was the end of my company. So from that failure, as I was talking, as Dan and other people said, you have to trust the people you have. If you try to become too dictatorial, people are not going to be creative. So when they did, they came up with this idea. So it was not really, it was an idea that came, and they said, why don't we use the university network and try to provide it. As a result of that, I had revenues of about less than $1 million. I was not making any salary myself. I was probably about losing about $100,000 every year for the moment. But then I had an idea. I was looking for funds, and you have to be creative in preparing presentations. So the way I looked at it was, who's large competitor to some of the North American companies that could benefit from my company product. And therefore, when I did this analysis, it became evident that the dominant players in telecommunications at the time, in conferencing, hardware and equipment, was Lucent in the US and Noctellion. So I looked at the rest of the world and I asked myself, I said, how come Alcatel, which is the dominant player, who is present in 109 countries, is not present in North America? So I contacted them. I'm raising funds, I'm looking for this, are you interested? He says, well, would you be interested in something that we don't even know what it is? I said, because it will give you, if you install it and you offer it as a feature of your teleconferencing equipment, you will be positioning yourself different than your competitor and you have an edge. But they bought into my story. And therefore, what they stopped seeing as a value was not the value of my company, but the value of the market reach that they can get, and they offered us $100 million. So I said, okay, what's that? So I made a lot of people and a lot of venture capital people very happy. A lot of my employees were very happy. But that's the kind of valuation that you get by positioning yourself to help somebody else compete in a much larger market that is beyond where we are. The end of that story, they developed that market, and they have just resold this company for $1.5 billion to Western. So many people say, why did you say over? And the answer is, as an entrepreneur, you have to also know your limits. If you don't establish for yourself your limits, you're going to fail. So you have to know how far you can take it, you have to know what skills you have, and you have to delegate as much as you can. You have to rely on other people, and you have to be a very good delegator, because you cannot have enough hours in the day to do everything yourself. And therefore, I reached my plateau, and I knew that the time for me was to go and build another company.
That's good. Wonderful.
I think we are already past the time, so I'll be very quick. My question is for Sarah. As somebody who started the business from scratch and then building it to a certain level and then hiring a team or building a team, and I think you mentioned about trust and later on then alluded to delegation, and, so, I mean, once you, it's kind of your baby, so how do you let it go? And then how do you build a team that will have the same passion and will take care in the same way as you do? So what are some of the challenges that you experience and how do you overcome them?
Okay, so I'll try and be very brief in the answer. It's always been very clear to me that if you want to be an entrepreneur, as soon as you start a business, you're also starting thinking exit strategy. A business without a succession plan is not a business, it's an indulgence, right? If you think your business is going to die with you, that's what you're creating. You want a business that will stay on, and so you start thinking about that succession plan the minute you start seeing growth. We're a fairly young company, but I have no attachment, and I think somebody said that. I am very passionate about what I do, but this is not me, right? I have my own brand. There are many other things I do. This is one of the things I do, and I think you go through different stages for why you do anything, and this is why you do anything in life or why you do anything in business. And one thing is maybe at a very temporary level, which is you want to just get pleasure, it's kind of fun, or you want to follow your passion for your lifetime, and then it sort of ends with you, or you do something because you believe there's a higher purpose to it. And that's what differentiates good companies from great companies. And I think if you want to be a great company, succession plan is right up there on your agenda. So as passionate as I am about the company, I would not think twice about selling it, getting acquired, provided that it continues in that vision. In terms of challenges and growth, one key thing that's very important for MyBaby is our customers. That's the people who come to our website, our clients. Everything we do is service-oriented because we don't have a brick-and-mortar store. At the end of the day, we're trading information. We're giving them an intangible service. So it's very important that we're a very bottom-up company as opposed to a top-down. We don't say, this is a good idea, now let's take it to market and find a market for it. We are in touch with our market, and we say, here's a gap, let's fill it. Here's what they want, let's give it. And that's how we evolve as a company. In terms of staffing, the biggest challenge we have is culture. It's very, very important for us to maintain the culture that we have at our company. And sometimes we let go or have not hired very, very competent people because they did not have the culture fit with what we do. They have to be as passionate about what we are. So everybody that starts in the company starts as an intern. It's mandatory. You start, you work the phones, you do all the basic stuff. It doesn't matter if you're coming in as a director, you do everything and you work your way through the training protocol. So I think culture has been really important. So I hope that answers.
Wonderful. I think we had a great session. We have our next session on October 30. That's an idea commercialization. And we want to thank Ronnie, Dan, Sarah, and Randy. They will be available to you for one-on-one for a little while if they're not in a hurry to go back. The session is, I will be distributing the handouts. And as a token of our appreciation, I'll just come down and hand out